and everybody.
Hey,
How are you? Welcome to Trek Tonight. Happy holidays to you. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Whatever you celebrate. Rigelian Festival of Lights, whatever it may be. How are you guys?
it's the holidays are a little stressful, but I'm very happy to be here to talk Trek for an hour or so with you gentlemen. Right. So
Yep.
it is it's a little bit of shore leave.
Yes.
In the endless space that is the holidays.
Yeah, I around 6:00, I all of a sudden said, okay, I have to start prepping for the show. And I had to step away from all the various preparations. I was up at 5:00 this morning.
Wow.
And I have been going the whole day, getting some last minute things done and just craziness. So, but yeah. Leo knows because Leo's been around our house at the holidays.
It is
how insane our house gets at the holidays.
Well, you have like a dozen trees.
Right.
There is a pen of live reindeer in the backyard. The kids like to come around and feed them.
Right. You're making me sound like Phil Hartman from what was that movie? Jingle All the Way. Yeah.
That's actually I've never actually seen Jingle All the Way.
Really?
It's sort of become almost like a punchline. But I've never actually seen it.
Yeah.
I think it sort of achieved a cult status. I don't think it did badly at the box office. I have no facts to back this up.
Right.
But I don't think it certainly wasn't one of Arnold's bigger hits. But it's sort of taken on a life of its own afterwards.
I need the Turbo Man doll. Yeah. Oh man! And I forget the guy who played the mailman. Who was that?
Again, I
okay,
can't
you
help
didn't see it. Yeah, right. He's the foil. He's the guy who's what is going on? He's the guy who's also trying to get the last Turbo Man doll. And they come to blows. What is this little? There's a little.
Is that a tag?
I don't know what it is. It's bugging me, but man, it's bugging me. There we go.
You have clearly a much nicer Santa hat than I do.
Well, they when you have kids, right?
Yeah. This was courtesy of the try and save.
Yeah, the Dollar General.
Yeah, so
now it's all weird. Oh, come on now.
There you go.
Looks there good. We go.
Very
still got that red thing.
Should we let them know we can still see it?
Yeah. Anyway, hey, anything special that you guys are doing for Christmas?
Special. Just,
same old that I think most people are doing. My family is going to be coming over here, spending the night.
Right.
It's a little unclear what's going to be happening exactly because while my mom does not have COVID, there is COVID in her building.
Ooh.
So she's like, well, one, she's basically been, confined to her apartment.
Right.
And my mom is a very social person, man. It's like, it's driving her up the walls to be stuck in her apartment and not being able to go down to chat with people.
Right.
And then, she's got a bad case of cabin fever right now.
Oh yeah. I bet.
So, but the original plan had been for some of the for Joshua, who lives with my sister, Joshua to spend the night with me, and Laura and her dog to spend the night with mom. But that's not going to happen. I think everybody, including the dog, is going to be spending here, and my cat will love that.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
He's been locked up here. I just already know that is not going to go well.
He's going to be up in the Keith Cave up there.
He's going to Saber's going to get locked up here in the Keith Cave.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, we're having a whole house full. My oldest and my grandson are going to be here for the night, and his dad is going to be here, and all the regular family, and then the grandparents are going to show up, and so it's going to be, yeah, we're going to do the big Christmas morning with all the kids, and I have all sorts of things I still have to assemble. So, yeah.
Well, it is just me and my mom, which will be at least it's manageable. Let's put
Right.
it that way.
Right.
So I finally put up a tree literally yesterday.
Right.
Because I don't know, I'm just exhausted all the time.
Right.
I don't even have it. I don't even though everybody's supposed to be coming over here, I don't have a tree. I just like, I don't have the time. I got home from working like with 20 minutes to spare before the start of this episode.
Right.
So,
well, yeah, I still haven't finished the live tree.
Right.
All the artificial trees are done, but the live tree isn't.
But I have a Santa hat now, so
yeah,
you do have a Santa hat, and the people on your route may enjoy that tomorrow. I think you were saying.
I haven't decided if I'm going to keep the Star Trek badge on it tomorrow or not.
Yeah, well, yeah. Hey, Scott Taylor gave us a thumbs up.
Thank you, Scott.
Hey, hi, Scott.
Good to see you. I always wish you could tell who was watching. I can see that people are watching on various channels, but Craig Lubin says he knew it. Keith Jacobson is Joe Townsend's evil mirror universe twin. Actually, I wanted to say to people, the reason Joe is not here tonight is because sadly his mom passed away. And our obviously our thoughts are with him and his family, but that's why Joe could not join us, which is a shame. But at any rate, what I'm trying to think. Oh, do we want to look at Star Trek stuff, ornaments?
Yes, Chris has taken some. I mean, I imagine a lot of them are on the tree right now.
All of mine are on the tree, and
right.
I actually had to I shot a little video, which I intended to edit and make really nice with music and stuff. And I'm shooting off of my new iPhone 14 Pro Plus, whatever. And I think it shoots better video than Final Cut Pro can take. So it all comes in and it's all blown up. And washed out, and then you have to color correct it, and you can. I've done it, but I just didn't have time. So I've just got the raw footage. Why don't you go ahead, Leo, though, and show us what you've got?
This one, I'm not sure if this one was I don't think this was a con exclusive, but it is an older one, so I thought I'd share it. It is a phaser.
Nice.
It says Christmas, then a hand weapon that you can attach to your belt with Velcro. It's a magic light and sound, so you can get the phaser sound with it. So that's
cool.
Pretty neat.
Because nothing says Christmas like hanging a weapon on the tree.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Now, this is one that I got at New York Comic Con a number of years ago. This is the U.S. Defiant, which glows in the dark. Let me put it in there. So,
wow.
Which is a pretty neat one.
Neat. So it looks like it was lost in the void.
Exactly.
Cool.
As you can see, this was done with white box, like a lot of the ones nowadays are white boxes.
Right.
But they at a certain point they switched over to black boxes, which you're now going to see. And let me see. I'm going to switch it up a little. This one is Mr. Arex in Lieutenant Maurice for the animated series.
Neat.
Which is very neat.
Yeah.
It's unusual. They occasionally do these for the con things. They'll put two droids together, or I always have a fairly decent collection of Star Wars ones. Like they'll have R2D5 and another like protocol droid together,
right.
Or a couple of bounty hunters like Zuckuss and Lom 4. Don't take away my nerd cred. Not remembering these. This one is another I have others somewhere, but I'm not sure. These are the ones I could dig up. This one is an original, is a remake of the original Enterprise, which was the first one, but it's,
Right.
I think, unlike the original one, it doesn't have to be plugged into a string of lights, which most of the new ones don't, which I think is helpful. And this one, I got this last year. This is a Klingon bird of prey, but it is made of metal, which is kind of unusual.
Yes. I have a Millennium Falcon that is all chrome and it's made of metal. And heavy sucker. I mean,
it is heavy.
You got to really find a good branch to hang that thing from.
Yes. So that is, it's just, I know that I have others somewhere, but I'm not quite sure where I packed them away.
Right.
And I'm not wrangling children and families, but I'm wrangling everything else.
Right.
It feels like. So I had no time to discover where I've squirreled those away, but they're somewhere.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'll go ahead and I'll show you this. This is, oh, wait a minute. Hang on. I'm gonna sort of manipulate this video here. There is Ilea.
Very nice.
From the motion picture. And you see the motion picture Enterprise.
Very nice.
That is my new Pike Enterprise.
Ah, nice.
I so wanted to get that. I didn't feel like I could budget it.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I didn't want to stick my fat thumb in there and push the button to make it light up. But the warp nacelles light up. The bridge and the lower sensor array light up, and then also the back of the warp nacelles light up blue. I don't know whether that's really true in the movie. I don't really remember. In the TV show, I don't really remember, but it's a cool effect. And let's see what else we've got here. There's my Reliant.
Very nice.
Darth Vader, of course, which is not related. Sovereign class. Yep. Now, I will say the one nice thing about the ones that you had to plug into the lights is they're always lit.
That's true. Yeah.
Whereas the other ones, you have to push a button, it stays on for like a minute and then it goes out. See Iron Man there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know what this Enterprise is from. I do. Is it from yesterday's Enterprise?
It is from All Good Things, which was the series finale for TNG.
Right.
Riker was in command of it.
Right.
And it sort of was a nod to the Dreadnought class a little bit. Well, I always felt it was.
I agree with you. Yeah. It's got the 3 warp nacelles and then some weapons, I think, are mounted up here. Yeah. Let's see. Here's where you get to see my lovely feet. Okay, nice. Now there's Voyager. The Voyager. Let's see what else we've got here. K9.
Yes.
And the I particularly like this because of its size. What happened there? The size of the Galileo, I think. It's hang on, I'll get back to it. There it is. It does, you can't see it here, but it does light up in the back and in the front. Craig agrees with you that you are correct. You are correct, sir.
Thank you.
And I don't know if there's anything else here or not. Let's see. Oh, yes.
Runabout.
I know Runabout. Yeah.
Very nice.
So that's my collection of those. And then I'm going to try, if I can, to put together a video of this that's a little better. That's my tree topper. And then there are what they call storyteller ornaments that tell the whole episode of Mirror Mirror.
Civilizations. To boldly go where no man has gone before.
And I will say, it goes on for a really long time. It pretty much gives you the whole story of the episode. So I'm not going to have you guys sit through all of that, but I'll just give you another couple seconds of this, and then we'll get back to the show.
That's very nice.
It's cool. It's a lot of fun. But you do get. Now, hang on. I like this.
Enterprise. Transporter room energized.
And it goes on like that. Hang on. Whoops. That's not what we want to do. Anyway, Mr. Spock comes in and, Captain, are you feeling any ill effects? Goes on and on. But it's funny, when you turn the tree on, it goes through sort of like I have the tree on a switch. So when I throw the switch and everything lights up, it goes through sort of a test.
Yeah.
The figures. And last year, they didn't have all of them yet. Scotty and Dr. McCoy were added this year, and that rounds out the whole set. But so I had an extra plug, and I stuck a Hermione Granger ornament on there. So you would hear, Mr. Spock, and then Sulu would say, Uhura, maybe you're going to come around, and all this stuff. And then you'd hear, hi, I'm Hermione Granger. Very strange.
A very different story.
Yes, very different story. Yeah. So what did you guys think of the
I have to say I was very impressed.
I loved it. Sorry.
I mean, mostly, like, I feel like let me put it this way. It was a very, like, there were adult consequences for actions.
Yes.
A lot of times with kid shows, which this is the kids, like, they're down for the count, but then they come up with a clever thing. The day is saved. And it's like, the day is far from saved. I'm not sure how they're going to resolve this.
Well, I have
next
a theory,
week. But I like the fact that they're kind of like, well, we're, effed, even though they don't use that language.
Right.
There's a lot to unpack in this. But I really enjoyed it. And it's heartbreaking to watch all these, a spoiler, for later in the episode, which you should have watched before watching our show.
Right.
If you haven't, turn us off, watch the episode, and come back.
And then come back, yeah.
The fact that, all these ships are being, decimated by each other. And people have died. I mean, you guarantee that there's a high body count already, and it's not over.
Right.
So.
Right.
I loved it. I especially loved some of the growth that, I don't know if growth is the right word, but we got to see Dal, and for me, my favorite moment in the episode came about halfway through, which we can talk more about when we get to that portion of the show.
Right.
But we saw Dal make a choice about halfway through the episode, and that was the moment. That was the moment that this episode earned that extra half point out of me that I have been holding on to for all these weeks.
Well, I loved it because he really does become a captain.
Yeah.
I mean, before he learns what he learns about Starfleet, he's just barking out orders, and he's totally in command of that ship, which I thought was fantastic.
Yeah, I think everybody was sort of, came to the forefront in their, in the ways that they are, good at.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of complaining. There wasn't a lot of whinging, and what are we gonna do?
Right.
When the chips were down, everybody was like, "All right, everybody knows what they're supposed to do," and they did it.
Right.
So I am impressed with the character development of our heroes from the very beginning, when they were certainly not a crew. They barely liked each other.
Right.
But as time's gone on, they've become closer. and they
Right.
become good at what they're doing, despite having no training. They're getting on the job training. Let's put it
Yes.
that way.
Craig Lubin says he liked the episode. Kudos to Janeway and Jellicoe for being the only competent admirals in Starfleet.
Yes, finally some love for Jellicoe.
Yeah.
Although his order, he was like, I get over on board, basically led to the destruction of all those ships, or the at least
he made the same command, just but anybody would have given the information he knew.
Right.
You know.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I still don't particularly care for him as a character. Like I'm not saying he's a bad admiral. He's better than Buen Amigo. You know, he's not a bad admiral, but he is he's a competent admiral who's a bit of a dick.
Right.
So
right.
Let's but I do like the fact that they brought back what is the actor's name? I want to say Cobb, but that's
Cox.
Yeah,
Ronnie Cox.
Ronnie Cox. Yeah.
Who is an excellent actor. He tends to play heavies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's good at it. But he's work is work. What can I say?
Right. Right.
So it is. I enjoyed it. Now there's also a moment where they realize they're going to be boarded on the ship.
Right.
Their shields are down, and they know that they're dead in the water. So Gwen goes down to the armory to get a phaser rifle, because she's like, "Listen, we can't let them get to the bridge. We gotta make our stand." And then, there was a moment before where the beans were almost spilled about augments in Starfleet, and she cut it off because that's not the moment to do it. But she's like, "There's something I have to tell you." In Dal, in typical fashion, thinks that she's like, admitting her love for him.
Yeah, I love that.
And he kisses her, and she's like, "What was that?"
Yeah.
I mean, I just said a little meaner than she did, but she was like sort of thrown. And he's like, "No, I'm sorry." It's kind of like, he's.
Yeah, I thought we were having a moment. Yeah. Yeah.
We've all been that serious.
I love that they threw that in there.
Yeah,
I did.
We've all been in a situation where like, "Oh, I misread these signals completely wrong."
Yeah.
But then he finds out that Starfleet won't let him in because he's an augment.
Right.
Which has got to be like a double gut punch.
Yeah.
But to his credit, he says, "All right, let me do this, because, if you guys should be able to get into Starfleet even if I can't."
Right.
And that's the moment when he said, I'm a sucker for those moments when the hero has to decide that he's going to do the right thing, even though he knows it's not going to do him personally any good, but it will do the others really good. I am a sucker for that moment, and as soon as she tells him, I was just all like, leaning forward, watching that moment, waiting to see, was he going to go, "Oh well, well then maybe we should just let Starfleet, blow itself up then." He did exactly what I want a hero to do at that moment.
Sure.
And that's the moment this thing earned the extra half point from me.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. I'm going to take it that nobody had any issues with this episode. Am I right or wrong?
I have a slight issue, but it's just a matter of wording, because when they're speaking to Jellicoe, when the Dauntless is speaking to Jellicoe, and essentially says, "We have orders to board the ship," and I'm like, who gave you those orders? Like, if she just said, there is a plan, we're sending a boarding party to take control of the ship.
Right.
It just feels like, I'm like, you're an ensign. Like, who's like, you didn't even say. It's just a weird. The wording was slightly off, and this is the most minor of quibbles. But it just felt like if she'd like, we have because tell me there's a plan. He's, well, like, we have a plan to board intake control,
Right.
and that would have it just felt like we have orders. I'm like, who's giving those orders?
Yeah. Right. Right.
It's just like slightly awkward. I mean, that's
Yeah.
I'm being so fucking picky. I'm sorry.
No, I know.
My first step
says
on
when
of the
Dahl
episode.
decides to do the right thing so that the others can have a chance to go to Starfleet, that is when he becomes a Starfleet captain.
Yeah, I love that. Because the beginning of the series, Dow would never have done that. He would have been
Right.
like looking for an angle. He might have been childish about it.
Right.
But they've come through so much that he cares about them. Like he's put their happiness and their future above his own.
Yeah.
Which is maybe the most Starfleet thing you could do.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean, I think clearly when they resolve this, which I'm sure they're going to resolve it, all of this is going to be the proof that they deserve to enter Starfleet. But
yeah.
And think about and if that's the case, and I think it is the case that
Right.
that this whole story is going to be how they say augments are okay.
Mhm.
And Dal may end up being the first augment who
Openly
first
augmented.
that's the word. That's the phrase.
Right.
The first openly augmented person to go to Starfleet Academy.
Right.
Think about that. They're taking a children's show, which is canon for for Star Trek,
Yeah.
and they are setting canon in it.
Right.
Yeah.
They are making it.
Oh, we lost your mic.
Now I bet you got it back.
Yeah, we
Yes.
did. We did.
I'm going to blame Saber for that.
Sure, we will not blame the fact that I was gesticulating wildly and we will not blame that. It's the cat's fault.
Yeah,
It's the
right.
cat's fault.
Right. Blame it
So
on.
yeah, there were so many great moments in this. When they board, when the diviner and the vindicator, aka Ensign Essentia and Death Knock. Is it Death Knock? What is? I'm because it's right because nobody really talks to this guy much. The robot,
Right.
Right.
It
Very very Star Wars in design, don't you think?
it is, especially the way he sort of spidered out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very much prequel era sort of design. But
yeah.
I liked, and the fact that they're able to escape after being taken out. Like it is interesting. I mean, I guess it is a kid show because I don't see why like Essentia or this killer robot would pause to not murder them because they don't seem to have a real regard for Federation life.
Right.
Or non them.
Right.
So, but it is also a children's show, so I understand why they weren't executed in the corridors.
Right. Right.
But the fact is, this thing is like basically a killer military grade assassin robot.
Right.
And there's no reason why it shouldn't be able to take care of 4 teenagers. Although we did see Murph be sort of like the jelly ninja.
I love watching the Murph-Foo.
Yeah,
Wow.
Murph-Foo. That's good. I
Yes.
like that. Yeah. Yeah. And I enjoyed the way they all got out of it.
Oh yeah. I mean,
out of being captured. That was kind of a neat sequence the way they did it.
It was, and everybody helped each other. It wasn't like
Right.
It's like sometimes in shows which are like the original series, which was basically Kirk and Spock and McCoy,
Mhm.
although mostly Kirk and Spock.
Right.
And it would always be one of those guys who would solve the thing or do the thing. But the idea this is more of an ensemble, which is a later era Star Trek conceit or a conceit, but let's say standard.
Right.
And Gwyn got a great duel on the bridge with the Vindicator.
Yep.
A lot of leaping around.
Yeah.
And very cool. they each had their own heirloom, those sort of transmorphing weapons, which are very cool.
Yeah.
Um,
and what we discussed last week came to pass. I mean, you had some element of redemption, for her father.
Yeah, he did. He definitely had a turning point where, like, he, even though earlier in the season he was perfectly willing to just, throw her under the shuttlecraft to get what he wanted, but I think all this experience has changed him somehow. I liked his redemption, and then he turned into blue dust for some reason. But if you notice, like she sort of glowed, like she has like these sort of trace patterns of light over her skin, which we also saw the Vindicator do. And here's, I read this in a review, so I don't know. You can take this with a grain of salt. Are her Gwen's people, are they telekinetic? Because her father like put his hand out and got before it was hers, it was mine. I always thought they were like mentally controlled. Like you were bonded with it, and you could turn it into, pull-up bars or a sword, or
that's what I thought.
2 daggers. So I'm not sure if it is the nature of that metal that it's made of, that it sort of will fly to you Mjolnir style, or are they? Because if they are telekinetic, they're not using it in other ways. They're not like, it didn't turn into like a lightsaber fight where they're like knocking each other around with
right.
TK.
Yeah.
So I don't know if somebody from the show is listening. Please weigh in and let us know, if it's not a spoiler, whether Gwen's people are telekinetic or if it's just a bonding to the item. Craig says, a father realizing he loves his daughter, that her happiness outweighs his need for revenge. Yeah. Very cool moment.
Yeah, very cool.
And we also got to see the canopy of the bridge be blasted through, and Essentia, it says, "Smell you later, crap burgers," and it takes off with a dreadnought as her escape pod. So the question is, where is she going to go? There's a planet nearby, if I recall, like that wide shot. There's a planet looks a little like Mars, although it's not Mars because they're not in the solar system. So I imagine, I don't know if Dreadnought has warp capabilities. I would be surprised if he did, but he might.
Yeah, I'd be surprised.
I thought she was going to Iron Man that. I thought she was like, but they've definitely left it on a very cliffhanging note, because Federation keeps sending in ships, and they're infected because they're getting the signal from these ships that are in distress, probably automatically at this point.
Yeah, that was wild. I mean, it was cool. It was a great moment. She gives that great speech to the Klingon, and the ships start to show up, and all of that stuff is great. And then all of a sudden you have this added element, and these other ships start showing up.
I want to talk about that for a second here.
Go ahead, Keith.
The speech that she gave. Yes, the speech was great. I love the speech. It was great. But what I really liked about it was, again, just a moment before that, which again has to do with Dal. When Dal tells her, give the speech, do the thing, and then he steps aside and he calls her captain.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if we've been watching the comments I've been making for this entire show,
yes,
I always thought Gwen should be the captain of that boat.
Right.
And she sits in that chair like she belongs in it.
Well, that's true.
And I loved that, and I loved the fact that the Federation is you always coming to the aid of other people.
Right.
Right.
And now the Federation is asking for help, and we got other people come to their aid, and we've kind of got a reverse Kittimer, where several 100 years ago we came to the aid of the Klingons. The Federation came.
Right.
I can say we. I'm wearing the badge.
Yes.
And anyway, I just kind of like that the Klingons are returning the favor.
Oh yeah, definitely, no question.
We got to see some cool ships.
Oh, yes. I when this show gets over, I'm gonna go back and rewatch it with my Utopia Planitia book and
Right.
see how many I can identify based out of this. Through this.
Excuse me. Yeah, I quite enjoyed it. I'm. It's funny because I thought they would escape into the future fairly quickly, but they might have to go through that temporal anomaly to try to stop it from happening. I don't know, because I don't know what the solution is when, like, this malignant virus, somebody opened up an email, they'd be like, oh, you won a free iPad, and then suddenly, the whole thing is gone tits up.
Right.
So I'm not sure what the solution is to this
Well,
virus.
don't you think it? I mean, as much as it's going to kill Keith, don't you think it has to be some element of time travel?
Yes, I think there has to be.
Yeah.
So Leo and I were having a discussion, not specifically about Star Trek,
right.
but about time travel.
Right.
I enjoy TV shows where people fly around in spaceships faster than light. I enjoy reading comic books
Mhm.
where some guy can run and go can run through walls and not
Right.
splatter himself.
Right.
I can see someone put on I can read comic books about someone putting on a piece of green jewelry and moving planets, and yet time travel is too much for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I need to reconsider.
I always thought, Keith, that it wasn't that time travel was too much for you as a concept. I always thought it was that it just hurt your brain.
It. I mean, my as I was discussing, Leo, my problem with time travel is the whole paradox issue.
Right.
And it's like if I'm gonna go back in time to 1885 from 2022,
Right.
still 2022. Even though in 2022, I haven't left yet, everything I did in 1885 has already occurred.
Right.
So I don't know what my plan was, but I've already participated in whatever events was going to happen.
Right.
So that has been my problem, is the whole paradox thing.
Right.
And I just decide, you know what? I'm just not going to worry about it. I'm
Yeah.
just going to enjoy it. It's just a show. We should just relax.
Exactly. Now, let me ask you guys a question. If this was an adult dramatic series, a la Picard, what have you, Next Generation, even, this would have been the season finale, don't you think?
This would be a good cliffhanger, but
and then they would have, and then you would have to have waited until next season to get it. And I'm wondering if they made a decision not to do that because of it being a children's show. What do you think?
I think that's a fair cop.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of fans don't deal well with cliffhangers, or they get, they're like, that's it. What? They get all.
I gotta wait a year.
Have you guys been listening to me?
What?
Saying, I mean, I feel like you've been listening. What? I gotta wait a year? God damn it!
Yeah.
So, I feel like you guys have been miking me.
So. but I do think that it is. I think that when you're doing a story for children who don't necessarily have the patience of adults, although some adults lack patience as well.
Right.
I think you need to wrap up a story like this.
Hurry up, get to the point, Leo. I oughta. That was me being impatient.
Yes.
I think it's kind of cool that, well, I'm assuming we're going to wrap the story up.
Yeah, I mean, I think there will still be. The question is, what's going to happen with our heroes?
Right?
Are they going to get to go to Starfleet Academy? Even though most of them are too young to attend Starfleet Academy, but I guess they could start, studying and getting ready. I don't know.
Well, when did Wesley go? How old was Wesley?
feel like Wesley started this series when he was 14, I want to say.
Okay.
And maybe he was 16 when he was taking that first test.
Right. And I guess
Or
and
maybe,
he's brilliant. So I guess
yeah, he's the prodigy. I don't know. I
Doogie
always assumed you had to be like 17 or 18 to join Starfleet.
Right. I would think so. It's, yeah.
But I'm basing that on just the way the military works now.
Right.
Versus the way, you know. So I don't know. That's a good question.
See, I don't know whether they're, although interesting, I don't know whether Starfleet would really have an age cap or limit, because there are species that live at much longer and shorter lifespans.
Yeah.
And so I think it would be hard to say, well, yeah, you can't, you know, join Starfleet.
I guess it depends on, like, with your species, like at what point are you considered an adult?
Right.
Yeah.
So
I think they would leave that up to the, you know, the species.
Yeah, like with a Vulcan, for example, you know, like, are they considered an adult when they're 18?
I imagine they are. It's just that it's funny because I think this is a very human-centric sort of thing we tend to impose. And having not met any real aliens, it's kind of hard to have any metric to judge this by.
Right.
But this happens a lot in both fantasy and science fiction. Is like usually they say, well, they become adults at around 18, but they live longer. But like it's interesting, like in Tolkien's Middle Earth, like hobbits at 33 become like adults.
Right.
Was the Crusher was just shy of his 16th birthday, 15 and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
so
you,
I guess it's possible for our crew, because I know Jankum is 16 when he entered the academy.
Yeah.
Jankum is 16. I'm not sure how old Gwyn is. I know.
Here's the problem, though, that they're going to have.
Yeah.
If they try to enter, if they enter the academy. Now, maybe they've got plans for this already, but they're going to have to leave the Protostar.
I'm kind of curious what the next season's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
On the one hand, they'll have to leave the Protostar.
Right.
Like if they get what they want to join Starfleet, or will they be, you know, because there's also the issue of Chakotay, which is something we haven't brought up yet this week. We've talked about it previously. You know, I'm pretty sure we need to get Chakotay back. I don't think they're going to write him out of the show.
No, I don't think so.
So maybe they solve this thing and then they decide to go get Chakotay. Maybe, I don't know. That was my guess. My guess 2 weeks ago was that they would end up going through that temple anomaly to rescue Chakotay. So it might still happen. I don't know.
Yeah, unless they end up on the Dauntless for some strange reason.
Maybe it's interesting. I didn't see this outcome. I didn't expect them.
Right.
I expected them to stop the weapon from being activated. They did not. That sucker got activated.
Oh yeah.
And all the Starfleet ships went Sith, with the red windows and so on. And it's I didn't expect that. I have to, hats off.
Yeah.
To, I'm not usually wearing a hat indoors, so I don't get to do that.
Yeah.
So put on my crooked try and save hat. And it is so I didn't expect this, and I don't want to say I'm glad, because I'm sorry all those imaginary people died, but I am glad because the stakes have been raised. Which oftentimes in shows, like, it's always like the most terrible thing is ever going to happen if we don't stop this person, and 99.99% of the time they stop it. You might get an Avengers Infinity War, where the snap happens, and half the universe disappears, which was like a heartbreaking moment.
Yeah.
Especially Spider-Man's death. Oh, still gets to me.
Yeah.
Stark, I don't feel so good. Oh,
Yeah.
so even though that they're going to bring Spider-Man back, but it's still a very tense moment. So
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how they're going to recover from this, because this could be like a real blow to Starfleet.
Right.
And we
Like
know
I
that.
say, I think it's going to have to be like in First Contact when Earth gets assimilated.
Right.
And I mean, we know the Diviner had a way of traveling through time.
Yeah.
So
But
that time travel stuff's on, even though, yes, Starfleet has had ways of traveling through time. Captain Kirk's done it and so on and so forth. But the Diviner had a process, and so we already know that that's on the table.
Well, I think they used the temporal anomaly that the
Right.
protostar came through, and they just went back the other way. That's what I was assuming. Nog was a Starfleet Academy for just 1 year before he got his wartime-filled commission of ensign. Maybe Prodigy crew will have something similar. Thank you, Craig Lupin. That's entirely possible. Fueled, not felled. Bloody phone. Yes. Damn you, autocorrect.
So I'm just trying to think, because if Starfleet is okay, now we're starting to get to why time travel hurts my head.
Okay.
So the Diviner comes from the future, yes?
Yes.
And the whole point of this exercise was to destroy Starfleet
In the past.
so that in the past,
Right.
what is now the current timeline.
Right.
So how do the kids solve the problem with time travel? Because if they go forward now,
it's already happened.
It's already happened.
It's already happened.
No, they have to go back. They have to go back further.
They have to go back further.
Or do they go to the home world and try to establish first contact in a more positive way, preventing the disaster from happening?
There's an interesting idea. Hats off to you, Leo. Yeah, I like that one. Much better.
But then, so they go back in time to make first contact.
No, they stay in the time they're in, because this is before Starfleet made first contact with them.
Right.
Starfleet is yet to discover this planet. So
but then they can't. That wouldn't work though, because Starfleet's wiped out. Starfleet will never make that first contact.
But what if the protostar does? Because the protostar is unaffected by the weapon, other than it's a carrier, because its systems are still working.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, there might be there's a gem of an idea in there somewhere.
I don't know. I mean, I'll be delighted to see something completely new.
Yeah.
I think they have to stop. I think they have to somehow stop this thing in its tracks in the current timeline. Because as you were pointing out, if they jump forward, where the hell's Chakotay? He might be in a timeline that doesn't even exist anymore. So they've got to somehow preserve enough of the timeline that Chakotay is still there, so that when they go try to rescue Chakotay, I hate time travel.
I just think that Leo makes an interesting point, which is that the solution is not to prevent the weapon from working. The solution is to prevent the weapon from existing at all. And that would be, but you know what? If they do that, none of the kids will be on the ship.
Yeah, there's a lot of wonky
none
stuff.
of the kids will be on that asteroid, because the Diviner won't be there being all bent out of shape. So yeah, I don't know.
It's an interesting. We'll find out more next week.
Find out we'll figure out if they
all will be revealed.
All will be revealed, exactly.
Yeah.
I posted something earlier on the Trek Tonight Facebook page, which was the scene from the end of Love Actually, where the guy writes all the cards to Keira
Right.
Knightley.
Oh,
And it's basically like there's a weapon on the protostar. Like if you try to make contact or beam aboard, it'll activate. Let's figure out a way to shut this down.
Yeah.
So, which I'm surprised they didn't try to do something like that, and just like not run away, just be like, okay, we'll put that up on the screen,
Right.
like just
Right.
like literally with paper and markers.
Right. Right.
And
Yeah. Trek actually, I think is what.
Trek actually is the
Yeah.
caption I gave it.
Yeah.
So they have to go real old school.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we are at 51 minutes into the hour. Do we want to rate this guy?
Yeah, let's rate it. I think much like you, I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 5. I thought this was the stakes were high. Things didn't tie up so neatly that it, obviously it's a cliffhanger because it's part 1 of 2.
Right.
But they raised the stakes and they were not effing around.
Right.
Yeah.
There are consequences for what has happened.
Right.
Right.
And we already know your vote, Keith.
I'm giving it a 5.
And I'm not going to fight with you guys. So I also thought it was excellent. So we will give it 5 Vulcan salutes for this week's episode. And let's hope that it's not like one of those role-playing games where it ends up being a 2-parter and the first part was really awesome, but then the GM doesn't really know how to wrap it up, so the second game is not nearly as good.
In which case, since this is part 1 of part 2, I will amend my previous 5 because technically, in my point of view, this is all one episode.
Right.
So,
which basically is what it is because
it's
only a half hour, so it's an hour.
But
episode,
I mean, they made moves with Dal that I like. They let Gwyn is. I don't know if Gwyn is going to be the captain going forward, or if that's going to be Dal. But Dal. I love the choice Dal made. I love that Dal called her captain.
Right.
I love the Klingons and coming to Starfleet's aid.
Right.
I thought their solution to the problem was clever,
right,
and good. And I'm also happy that it didn't work because. Yeah, I'm also happy that it didn't work, and it didn't work in a real way that I can see happening.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Also, two things that were cool is the fact that Gwen speaks all these languages, which we've seen her do in previous episodes.
Right.
Thanks to her dad. Her dad is the helicopter parent, Tiger Dad. I don't know.
Right.
Because she speaks Klingon and she speaks Rock Talks language and Tellarite and so on. So that was very cool.
Right.
But also the fact that Janeway gets out. This was, and let me see. I will pull this up.
Oh yeah, I need to watch that episode.
There was they make a reference to an episode of Voyager because the ensign who's guarding.
Yes, that's right.
Admiral Janeway. This was an episode called Counterpoint, and the Benares that she smuggled refugees out. And there were 2 young girls in it, and one of them was this new ensign. She's like, well, you don't remember me, but I remember you. Right. And I love the idea. And again, it's a very Star Trek idea that it wasn't about her having to be super clever or, trick her or, short things out. Like it didn't become like this thing. It was about your past compassion.
Right.
Shows me that I can believe in you.
Yes.
Which I think it was, again, very Star Trek in a way that I quite enjoyed.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, this has been a fantastic show. I think the last 2-3 shows that have come from Paramount in Star Trek have been home runs. Lower Decks, Strange New Worlds, now this, and this for me was a sleeper. I was not expecting to like Prodigy as much as I have been.
I'm the same way, Keith. I didn't. I don't want to say that I reluctantly suggested we do this, but I think I said something about last week that I almost thought, well, maybe we would have to do like a Trek Tonight Junior or a show specifically geared towards kids in order to review this, and it really was not true. I was able to enjoy this just as much as an adult, and yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah,
another great effort from Paramount. So
it was, like I said, I enjoyed the first half of the season. It's not, but that there was a lot of sort of putting pieces on the board,
right?
Which is
right.
which I think in media is becoming more the more common. Like I would say, like let's briefly talk about the MCU. Because a lot of people were complaining about this latest phase of the MCU. They're like, it's disjointed. It's not as driven as like leading up to Infinity War.
Right.
And that's true. But I think they're positioning pieces on the board.
Right.
They're introducing the multiverse. They're setting up stuff that is going to pay off down the line.
Right.
And I think that's what they did with this. It's like, and I'm going to be very curious because all of this is all canonical. So.
Right.
This is the same world that Picard exists in, and the crew, the Cerritos. So I'm curious to see, if on the next season of, I'm sure I'd be surprised if they didn't make a reference to, what went on at this battle on Lower Decks. Even if it's a throwaway line.
Right.
So. Yeah,
what's the timeline here on that? Because I'm on the. I mean, does Prodigy take place concurrent with Lower Decks, or is it farther in the?
It might be a little farther along. Although, if you notice, the Starfleet uniforms are almost a little like Lower Decks, where it's the bright colors and the black shoulders, and they have that sort of like, seam along the side that folds open almost like a cowboy shirt,
right?
Which is kind of a design I'm rather fond of because I think it looks very cool.
Right.
Nice lines on it. So
right.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I'm sure a bit of research might tell us that because they're trying to make the star dates mean something because it felt like initially in TOS star dates had a purpose, and then I think eventually they're like, yeah, just throw a bunch of numbers together.
Right.
So
yeah,
but I think they're trying to do that a little more. I think they're trying to make it a little more cohesive.
Yeah, I agree.
If they're not concurrent with Lower Decks, they're not far beyond.
Yeah, because Janeway is still an admiral, and so it can't be too far advanced.
Right.
Because I mean, I would say Lower Decks is post the movies.
Yes.
And Janeway was an admiral then. So
right.
And we've seen Mariner in like the black tunic with the gray shoulders.
Right.
Which was sort of which I guess is sort of a standard Starfleet uniform because Riker and the crew, the Titan wore that. So, I don't know.
That does slightly bug me about Star Trek is that they changed their uniform so damn much. Come on now, guys.
Sound like Petra Aberdeen, from the archaeological guild.
Right. Right.
And you got two, you got these people over here have a uniform, and these people here have a different uniform. And wait, those people over there in the back, they got another uniform.
Yeah.
How many uniforms does Starfleet have?
Lots,
apparently.
Lots.
Can you still call them uniforms if everybody has
a different one? Yeah.
Well, if they're all on the same ship, it is uniform. It's uniform for that ship. I don't know. Listen, man. Again, we could tie ourselves in knots trying to justify this, but at the end of the day, it's just a TV show, and we enjoy it.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I do enjoy it very much.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, guys. Yeah, I think it's that time.
I think
All
so.
right.
Yep. Time to roll out of here. I hope everybody has a wonderful, safe holiday.
Yes.
And you enjoy whatever you celebrate and do. And you get to spend time with your family and enjoy that. And we will see you next week after Christmas, before New Year's. I hear a thundering set of feet coming. Um, oh, you didn't miss anything.
We missed it really.
Aw.
Oh, look at you. Look at you. We got everybody here. All right. Everybody's going to dance us out of here.
All
Look
right.
at this. We've got the whole gang. We have Penny. We have Charlotte. We have Arthur. And we have Gina. Come back over here.
Come on, Gina.
And we're going to roll out of here. And again, have a wonderful holiday. Why am I?
You
Oh,
too.
there we go.
Live long and prosper, everybody.
Yep. Live long and prosper. And Merry Christmas, everybody.